Good morning. I'm Chief Master Sergeant Katie Garcia, the narrator for today's ceremony. Today, we welcome you to a special ceremony marking the retirement of Colonel Aaron E. Hill after 34 years of dedicated military service. The presiding official for today's ceremony is Colonel Jill B. Hopkins, Commander, National Security Agency, Alaska, and Commander, 373rd Surveillance and Reconnaissance Group. At this time, I ask you to please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the presentation of the colors, singing of the national anthem, and the invocation.
So rich is one. Our God, Lord, thank you this day for the opportunity and blessing to have to be united here as friends, family, colleagues, group to celebrate this momentous occasion. We are grateful for this fabulous career that she has had. Pray for continued strength, courage, and inspiration for us afternoon and this morning. Pray for all these things. This guidance, my name. Amen.
Thank you, Honor Guard, Chairman Rivera, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We'd like to take a moment this afternoon to recognize our distinguished guests in attendance today. First, Colonel Hill's husband, Lieutenant Colonel retired Tony Domenica. Her sister, Jennifer, and cousin Lisa, who are on an inbound delayed flight but might be joining us virtually, we also welcome you. Her brother Roger and family Laura, Avery, and Ezra Seckler. Her cousin Lisa's husband, Matt Pedro. Her friend, Chief Master Sergeant retired, Scott Irwin. Command team spouses and esteemed colleagues, Lieutenant Colonel retired Clay Hopkins and Chief Master Sergeant, my favorite, Adrian Garcia. And to everyone else that is joining us by video. Lastly, a special welcome to Team J-Bear and extended family and friends for being here to share this special occasion with Colonel Hill and your family. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's presiding official, Colonel Jill Hopkins. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? I know the C-17 is a big noise. Good to go? So, obviously, as in the military, we stand on ceremony, right? We wear it on our uniforms to tell our experiences, our rank, you know, even the amount of time we've been in. If you look through the habit of our program, take a look at all the decorations that we have. Okay? So that's for every deployment. That's for PCS. That is for military and military. These are all the things that are public knowledge. But that's not really what this is about, right? And so when I talked to Kamala about what she wanted me to talk about in the ceremony, she didn't care about any of those things. She cared about the people. So I just want to take a moment. I want everybody to turn around and look. Let's look at how many people turned out for this celebration. 34 years. But she also has some really great stories, and I'm only going to touch on a few of them. And there's some specific things that she asked me to talk about. So if you're ready, buckle up, we'll go. So like many of us, Karen helped join the military to help pay for her education. When she joined in 1992, concepts like online classes were breakthrough. So her plan was to go to a tour, go to school after her first enlistment. Post basic training, Karen Hill's first duty station was Dakota Air Base in Japan, where she was in medical logistics. One of her first experiences as a world traveler, and this just demonstrates how much the world has changed and evolved while Karen served. On her trip to Japan, wearing blues no less, she was in a plane full of smoke as folks puffed away on cigarettes for the entire evening on summer flight. And she had a lot of interesting stories. I'm going to use the word interesting for Dakota. Just imagine navigating the Japanese train system using maps and printouts with vague translations of kanji to English, where you just kind of have to hope for the best. But after a 2-year tour, Karen first class held transfer to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma, where she continued as a quote qualified on everything she could in the logistic world, from forklifts to semi-trucks. It was here she participated in her first large-scale military exercises and operations, with real-world rescue requirements ranging from F-5 tornadoes to responding to the Rural Building bombing, also known as the Oklahoma City bombing, a terror attack that took the lives of 168 men, women, and children. It was experiences such as these, coupled with her exposure to a multitude of Air Force professional development opportunities, that led Karen to be selected for the E-4 World Zone. She was a Major Command Airman of the Air, and she was a Leviton winner at Airman Mission School. All of this shaped her outlook on service. And that outlook is one of strong character, deep commitment, and a love for her fellow service members, a trait she continues to exemplify today. So it was 1999 when Staff Sergeant Hill ended her second enlistment, that was doing it up front, and opted to join the Oklahoma Air National Guard. So her plan was to continue to serve while finishing the fast master grant. So remember, there were no online classes yet, but she hit the point where she had to go on residence. You couldn't take a time off below the day. transitioned to intelligence going from Goodfellow's 14M course from 2003 to 2004. We just missed each other. During continuing the Oklahoma International Guard, the chief of wing intelligence for the F-16 fighter unit and augmenting the C-130 unit at Oklahoma City. During her time with the Guard, Karen deployed 5 times, listed and as an officer. And it was from one of these early deployments, on our flight back from Operation Southern Watch in Aliyah Saline, that Karen learned the 9/11 attacks. Thankfully, her plane landed in Tulsa before the airspace of the United States was locked down. And she learned of the towers falling in the Pentagon strike while driving home. But his flight, United Flight 93, that crashed in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, that has the closest connection to Karen. As a reporter, and Brother Roger, volunteer firefighters. Okay? Both volunteer firefighters in Somerset County responded to the scene and was ongoing recovery efforts. Their bravery and compassion, and the bravery of Somerset's teachers, neighbors, and friends, along with the compassion Karen witnessed in the aftermath of the Oklahoma bombings, stayed with her and reminded her that despite our minor differences, Americans come together to help each other at the worst of times. But her time at the Guard is not all tragic. In her 10 years, Karen met, worked with, and ultimately grew her Air Force family, many that she considers lifelong friends. But it was one friend in particular who had the deepest impact on then Captain Karen, though. A fellow captain, Tony Domenico, who she met and befriended at an Oklahoma City marathon party. And it was this friend in 2008 who she called on for a favor. You see, Captain Karen was a troop commander coming from Iraq when she was landing in Aberdeen for the mandatory post-deployment stop. For those who didn't know, he had stopped for about 4 or 5 days, and usually ended up being a little bit ridiculous logistically. She needed to travel to her folks in Karen's temporary housing, so she called her friend Tony, who was deployed there at the time. And lucky for Tony, who had not known he was undergoing a test at the time, and Trump was found. For the next week, Tony, a very smart man, wasted no time taking Karen out to dinner and a movie every night, courtesy of the Channel Hall and Hollywood Theater at Aberdeen. So obviously, his advances impressed Karen, as she visited him in Italy early the next year, and joined when asked by Tony to move to Alaska in 2009, where they have been residents ever since. Karen continued to serve, this time in the Air Force Reserves at the 611th Air Operations Center. And Tony walked him in 2011, proposing to Karen before she left to assist with the closure of Camp Liberty in Baghdad. They were legally married in 2012 upon return and prior to Tony's transfer to Air Force Personnel Command in San Antonio, Texas. While in Texas, Major Bill worked at the Air Force Intelligence Surveillance Reconnaissance Agency, this is a precursor to 60th Air Force. In 2015, Tony was selected for an assignment with NATO, working as an exchange officer in Italy. Karen secured a very nice day in Brussels at the NATO headquarters, where she worked the ISRG portfolio of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. While in Italy, as she describes it, Karen and Tony dined at F-45 served best what they could while exploring Europe, Egypt, and Jordan. After Italy, the couple returned to Alaska in 2018 for Tony's final altitude assignment at the 962nd Air Squadron. Lieutenant Colonel continued her Brussels gig, accomplishing one of the first military article exchanges in Greenland and working man days for the Alaska Command J3 as the ISR planner. She also worked the first Deadly Command mission, the 17th Training Group in Goodfellow, commuting back and forth for reserve days, first in Brussels and in Texas. In the midst of all this jet setting, Karen was promoted to full colonel in 2022, while on active tour of the Air Force, wherein she set up what is now the U.S. Air Force Arctic Qualification Task Force, started the Arctic exercises, and learned about the breadth and challenges of Arctic operations. And lucky for me, in the 373rd ISR, now latter role, Karen has left a legacy of strong leadership exemplified by true character and devotion to her heritage. So when I asked Karen what she wanted her family to know about her 34 years of service, she said that her time had been a life of adventure and sacrifice, but that her family was always part of her journey, with Tony, her partner, and her team, her we. 34 years is a long time, so why stay in? The original plan was to retire at 5 as lieutenant colonel, but our very own E6 to 06 stayed because she loved feeling the impact and value of each interaction, each position, over the last 3+ decades. So what's next? Karen and Tony plan to remain in Alaska, but maybe move to someplace a little warmer. They'll continue to walk through life with family, relatives, and those who have grown into their family, many of whom have joined us today. So on behalf of the grateful nation of the United States Air Force, thank you. On a personal note, thank you, Karen. You were exactly the person that I needed to help me succeed in command. Your sage counsel and advice and your constant positive attitude have left a long-lasting imprint on the 373rd and NC Alaska. So if you're ready, without further ado, Colonel Hill, please join me on stage.
Please stand for the medal presentation. Colonel Karen Hill distinguished herself by exceptionally meritorious conduct and performance of outstanding service to the United States as the individual mobilization augmentee to the commander, 373rd Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Group, Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson, Alaska, from 12 May 2023 to 1 August 2026. During this period, the exemplary ability, diligence, and devotion to duty of Colonel Hill were essential to the leadership of over 450 military and civilian members across 2 continents, executing a no-fail national security mission spanning 11 combat commands and 31 program nations with direct life-saving impacts. As Deputy Group Commander, Colonel Hill drove the group's strategic direction and policy implementation during the revitalization of the Department of War's Memorial ethos, ensuring readiness standards and wartime preparedness for airmen and 22 recruits were met. An unparalleled Arctic expert and advocate with 17 years of regional, operational, and intelligence experience, she promoted Arctic resiliency and equipped airmen for diverse conditions for missions across the state. As the military liaison for the National Security Agency Alaska, Colonel Hill liaised with counterparts across the installation and multiple commands, synchronizing support during an unprecedented United States-Russia presidential summit. Preparedness for Air Combat Command Combat Readiness Inspection, the contract oversight of the $600,000 facility renovation, and deployments in response to Operation Epic Fury. A total force integration expert, she served as a reserve advisor to the commander, senior leaders, and individuals during multiple government shutdowns with direct fiscal and policy impacts to members and missions. Her largest impact is on our teammates. She never tires of maintaining an open door for every member for professional development, personal challenges and successes, service retention options, and service as an example of genuine compassion and leadership while balancing successful mission execution. A combat-proven, team-focused servant leader. These singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Hill culminate a long and distinguished career in the service of her country and reflect great credit upon herself and the United States Air Force. United States Code, Section 9311, in the grade of colonel. You may be seated. Colonel Hopkins will now present the retirement certificate to Colonel Hill. This certificate from the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. This is about right. Sorry, from the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Kenneth S. Rosebach recognizes Colonel Hill's 34 years of faithful and honorable service. She also received a certificate from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Chief David Wolf, which is on display. Thank you, Colonel Hopkins and Hill. You might both be seated. At this time, we will now have a special flag presentation to recognize Colonel Hill's 34 years of service, narrated by Lieutenant Colonel Risden and Master Sergeant Luna Toman.
For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Many service members receive a flag they keep throughout their career. Colonel Hill's flag has traveled all over the world with her, from Germany to Iraq and Afghanistan to Kuwait. Recently, her flag was flown over the Alaska area of responsibility. It flew on a C-130 conducting airborne drop operations, a C-17 conducting remote resupply across the tundra, and an F-22 conducting homeland defense operations. It also flew at the NSA Alaska headquarters building, representing Colonel Hill's final assignment, closing out her time in service.
Today, we will take a few minutes to recognize the memorable lives and loves of your distinguished careers. From D1 to 06, tossing this flag to each rank that she held. Every Air Force career begins with a single step. For trainee Hill, it started in San Antonio, Texas.
She arrived at basic training, ready to begin her career, and immediately learned one of the military's first lessons: hurry up and wait.
Airman Basic Hill spent an extra 5 days at training waiting for enough women to fill a training quota.
5 extra days of getting yelled at before training even officially started.
A bonus package nobody requests.
She volunteered for stairwell duty because the boys were assigned her.
An excellent example of all decision-making skills all possessed at 18 years old.
Unfortunately, she quickly discovered that they all had exactly the same fault. And just like that, the mission lost all strategic value.
After basic training, she was off to Shepherd Air Force Base for tech school and then recruited Air Base Unit.
She was nervous, excited, and ready for whatever adventure came next. Airman Hill arrived at Yucatan Air Base as a homesick 18-year-old stationed thousands of miles from home.
This was before cell phones, unlimited texting, social media, and Facebook. If you wanted to call home, you had to record it and go find it.
Some more members here today we have to YouTube how to use data. Luckily, Colonel Hill began to settle into life overseas,
As you see throughout this journey, if there is an adventure available, Colonel Hill will find it.
including some shenanigans turning a dormitory hallway into a slip and slide.
As a senior airman at Senior Air Force Base, she earned the blood zone promotion, continued taking college classes at night and on weekends, and purchased her first home.
She also purchased a brand new 1997 purple Jeep because apparently purple was the obvious choice.
That purple Jeep is parked outside and still makes the drive every day to her favorite coffee hut for a half gap and all the way up to our site.
At this point, it qualifies as both transportation and historical artifacts.
These years brought some of the biggest moments in her life, including the tragedy of Oklahoma City bomb, where she lost her friends Senior and Keisha Levy.
Through loss of adversity, Senior Airman Club continued moving forward, building a resilience that would define her leadership for years to come. She never stopped preparing for the next opportunity. She was focused and determined to make that next leap.
And as we see throughout this story, when an airman sets her sights on something, there was very little that could stand in her way.
As a staff sergeant, she decided another adventure was in order and cross-trained into civil engineering. It was also during this time that people began learning an important lesson. If you tell her she can't do something, she's probably already halfway through doing it wrong.
She became an instructor specializing in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and hazardous materials response.
This wasn't the kind of training where you sit in an air-conditioned classroom.
She trained with 5 nurse agents and 5 risk agents, responded to suspected anthrax incidents, and routinely operated in full protective equipment.
And spent enough time in mock here to make anyone question her life choices.
During this chapter, she also completed ISRG during the events of September 11, 2001.
When she returned home, she celebrated in true old fashion by choosing an adventure to backpack the Grand Canyon and canoeing down her waters.
Apparently, boxing was never really her thing.
With the PCS to Tulsa, Oklahoma, she was selected for promotion to technical sergeant, marking a pivotal moment in her career.
It was here that she was also selected for commissioning, opening the door to an entirely new chapter of service.
The future seemed perfectly planned.
Until she discovered that the degree she worked so hard to earn would not allow her to remain in civil engineering.
As Colonel Hill would say, a planning fail, and a reminder that even future colonels occasionally discovered that they need to read the final print.
Rather than seeing a setback, she saw it as an opportunity and earned an intelligence officer position, setting the stage for the next chapter of her Air Force journey.
From Airman Basic to technical sergeant, she would lead the enlisted ranks. At this point, the story changes.
Few airmen experience both sides of military leadership.
You were rise from Airman Basic to
Technical Sergeant Hill raised her right hand once again and became Second Lieutenant Hill. As a newly commissioned Second Lieutenant, she attended the Academy of Military Science in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Before she left, she made herself a promise that she wouldn't quit until she was at least halfway through training.
Because apparently the best way to get through another version of basic training is to schedule your quitting day in advance.
As it turns out, quitting was never really her style. She never made it to that quitting date.
She completed commissioning school, attended intelligence training at Goodwill Air She's the only one that did not get fired.
Another challenge accepted and another chapter completed. It was an epic moment, and the Air Force trusted her with even greater responsibility. As captain, she served around the world, supporting operations in Qatar, Iraq, Afghanistan, Germany, Puerto Rico, across the United States, and beyond. Remember when we told you that she would have a chance at redemption? She also accepted another F-16 flight. Some people require additional data before reaching a conclusion. So Captain Hill had that additional data and confirmed her earlier findings. She definitely did not want to be a pilot and was more than happy to leave his mind to Tony. Speaking of Tony, this chapter also brought one of the most important moments in her life. Not only did she move to Alaska, but on leap year day, she and Tony were married on a frozen lake. Tony and his father showed them how across the Snowbird Heights so they could celebrate with their parents, 3 friends, and their dogs, and of course, no less a wedding would be complete without staying across the lake afterwards. A traditional wedding venue was never really an option for them. Together, they continued building a life-rooted adventure, investing in properties and tackling the restoration projects. At this point, they were collecting houses like some people collected challenge points. I forgot where we're at this point for our telling. As a major, she continued her Alaskan adventure with the 611th Air Operations Center before moving to multiple other sites across the intelligence community. She continued building experience that would shape international and international operations. For most people, that would be enough for one chapter, but not for Major Hill. When Tony received orders to a native assignment in Italy, Major Hill found himself working with the native headquarters in the Joint Chiefs of Staff office in Brussels, Belgium. She also completed her master's degree in space policy in 4 months. 4 months! I can only assume that took a non-stop copy diving. Some of us still have CBTs assigned from 4 months ago. She was also inducted into the Rockwood Hall High School Hall of Fame. Go Rockets! During one particularly significant international engagement, Major Hill found herself the only woman in a room of 150 allied and partner nation representatives. In some of those nations, women couldn't even drive. Yet when the U.S. needed someone at the table, Major Hill was the person they sent. She had spent her career stepping into unfamiliar environments, embracing challenges, and proving herself time and time again. Through challenges, uncertainty, and change, Major Hill continued to do what she had done throughout her career: adapt, lead, and move forward. As Lieutenant Colonel, she continued serving in Europe before eventually returning to Goodfellow Air Force Base. Then it was back to Alaska with Alaska Command and 11th Air Force Director of Operations, shaping missions in one of the world's most strategically important regions, the Arctic. During this time, she traveled to New Greenland to work with Arctic Command while balancing responsibilities in both NATO and U.S. roles. For most people, they would go to Greenland and come back with pictures. Lieutenant Colonel came back with action items. She wasn't just studying the Arctic, she was shaping how the Air Force would operate here in years to come. And she helped the Air Force develop our Arctic strategy, shaping air operations in a region of critical and strategic importance. But for Lieutenant Colonel Hill, it was just another day in the office. As a former colonel, she returned to Goodfellow before eventually making her way back to the last frontier. Because, let's be honest, Alaska was always going to call her back. Back in the 11th Air Force, Colonel Hill continued leading Arctic efforts and tackling some of the Air Force's most complex challenges. Then, she joined
voice of reason when people needed it most.
Whether someone needed career advice, leadership guidance, or simply a place to talk or challenge, Colonel Hill always found time for her people, and somehow she always seemed to know exactly what you needed to hear, even when you didn't know yourself.
Many of us, including me, are better leaders, better teammates, and better people because Colonel Hill took the time to invest in us.
That is the legacy she leaves behind,
Not just the mission she supported,
not just the strategy she helped shape,
but the lives that she influenced. And that is the legacy that will continue long after today's ceremony. Colonel Hill, on behalf of the 373rd Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Group, your friends and your family, we present you this flag in recognition of your 34 years of faithful service to the United States Air Force.
Thank you, Master Sergeant Lieutenants, Lieutenant Colonel Risden, and the flag presentation team. Colonel Hill made an impact across many bases and units during her time in service. At this time, we'd like to invite forward representatives from some of those units to honor Colonel Hill's dedication and excellence while serving with them. We'd like to invite the 381st Intelligence Squadron to the stage.
I truly don't know what to say. This is really just want to take a minute to say thank you. One, because the 4 years is a huge deal, but also for all that you did for our family, which was truly impossible to describe. You arrived at our building and you cared personally for every single person in our building, and it's hard to replicate your positivity and your leadership presence for our team. What we got from you is something that really felt demonstrated how you made a difference to us, and to do that, you have to make a small story that highlights and the impact that you had. So this is called the Starfish Parable, which for those of you that may or may not be familiar with it. A man walked along the beach, a heady saw a boy dashing back and forth in the sand. He smiled, thinking the boy was enjoying being on top of the room. So he heard a different shot. As he got closer, he saw the boy picking something up out of the sand and gently tossing it into the sea. As he got closer to the boy, the man called out, "Hey, what are you doing?" The boy paused in throw and looked up and replied, "Throwing starfish into the ocean. The sun is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back in, they will die." The man said, "Don't you realize that there are miles and miles of beach and starfish all along it? You can't possibly make a difference." After listening politely, the boy reached down, picked up another starfish, gently tossed it back into the sea, and said, "It made a difference to this one." You did not get to make the difference in every person in their career. For many people out there, you got to make a huge difference and it mattered to them. So we got you this little starfish. So you can see that you and you remember every day that you did make a difference.
Next, we'd like to invite the 11th Air Force Guarding Team to the stage.
Please bear with me. I have the privilege of sitting on behalf of the resilience team that truly Soldiers manage programs, others create legacies, from the good goals for us. When we think about our resilience training force, we don't just think about the force. We think about the vision. The vision that became reality because she saw the importance of our readiness. Long before it became focused in the actual area of the Air Force.
And finally, I'd like to invite us, the 373rd ISRG Command Team.
I'm gonna let Chief Garcia do this, so I don't drop anything. But this is just a small token of our thanks. We talked about all the different locations and places that Colonel has been. So we figured you'd have a little points. Yeah, you need a place to put those. So the bottom says prepare for 606. We have a wonderful group.
Thank you all for joining us. At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Romanico, please come forward for the exchange of the retirement pins. Colonel Hill will award Lieutenant Colonel Romanico his retirement pin as he was unable to have this moment due to COVID. Then Lieutenant Colonel Romanico will present Lieutenant Colonel Hill with her retirement pin. Thank you both for coming and going. Colonel Hill would now like to take a moment to present a gift to her husband.
I'm going to give this